So can we hear it for Mr. Rane?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, first of all, Pankaj, for Flairology. It's been an amazing school. You're doing some excellent work. You're making us proud. And what to talk about these famous personalities, I see them growing from an hospitality boy to an hospitality man. What I am today, it's all because looking at this gentleman in over here. If I'm wrong somewhere, please correct me. It's all about learnings in life. And learnings goes haywire. How much knowledge you have, you should share. Knowledge is all about sharing. Anyway, we'll start with the topic called as modern mixing. And I will talk about a brand which I really created on my own called as Social, where Riaz Umlani is the NRA president of India, and he has given me an opportunity to design something. And it was a very beautiful thing what he said to me, that I really want people to spend time at your outlet, not money. The experience was the most important thing. And that's why I became as a brand experience manager when I started my career with Impresario. Well, today I will talk about one cocktail, then we'll move on to the slides, which will take you towards few of my creations which I did for Social and Social Chat as an entity. And there was a last beautiful line which was at the bottom which says, as joy of sharing. And I really want to share my thing about how I became a mixologist in life. Interesting story, which I'll tell at the end of the part. So I'll start first with the cocktail called as the Lantern, where I feel it's all about thinking outside the box, but yet be inside the box. Because it's all about acceptance and awareness. That's the factors which clicked in India. People should be aware about a product and accept at the right price. If these two things click, you don't need to educate people. They buy it on their own. If I tell you a Kingfisher is for 5,000 rupees, you might say, I don't want to have it. If I tell you that a Kingfisher is for 100 bucks, you don't think twice. You just grab it. That's where I go. So it's all about acceptance in life. That's what I created, I cultivated into me, and I started designing my cocktails. So the first cocktail which I'll do is called as the Lantern, where it actually is being served in a lantern. It's a cocktail which has little of an aroma of a lavender flower. So I use a lavender agarbatti because it's more of an Indian tradition culture. And I really wanted to mix the tradition of India into my cocktail. And that's how I want to give an experience to people. So that's where I designed called as the Lantern. Which has a Ballantine as the smoothest whiskey which I use in. I added with infused of marmalade, an orange marmalade into it, and just a balance of sweet and sour mix. Now I'm very, very particular about all the mixologists before me who are the legends of mixology. I learned from them. That the basics has to be right always. You can't go wrong with a sweet and sour mix. Today, if any bartender comes to me and give a trade test, I don't tell him to make cocktails. I tell him to make a sweet and sour lime juice. And that's how a quality of the bartenders you can see and you can feel it. Because it's why you do is more important in life than what you want to do. And I always believe in why than what. Because why touches you here. What touches you, I don't know where. That's what it is. So that's my cocktail which I serve at Social is called as the Lantern, which has an aroma of an agarbatti which comes inside, which is served with a marmalade and a base of whiskey and a sweet and sour mix. It's as simple, it goes with the marshmallow cherry, but this is the way it's served, is called as the Lantern for you. Cheers. I really want the gentlemen to try in over here, because you ditched them, not served. So yeah, then I'll move on to the slides. Can I have it please? Yeah. That's our social. Social is all about bracket. It's what you're social about comes in that bracket. So it's all about modern cocktails. So I'll talk about modern cocktails, but modern cocktails come with modern thinking as well, because that's what very important. It's not about making cocktails, about, as what I said, is why you want to make it. So these were the longest Long Island iced tea which I did. And I'll be lucky enough if I go to the Limca Book of Records for the highest consumption of LITs in India. Thank you so much. And that's what Social LITs is for me. I created this with a random thought about acceptance and awareness factor, which clicked. And I really do this tasters. There's a Long Island festival which is going on pan-India at Social. And I really did this tasters about 10 different cocktails. I put them into a long beaker with a straw and a mouthpiece. And the experience which my bartenders and my servers give it. That's what very important with a smile, with the way you take it, the way you give people is all about that. And this is what the longest Long Island. So we do a lot of tastings, we do a lot of research, we give it to our guests to have it, and we take like random feedbacks from them, and that's how we created the longest Long Island iced tea. Then we move on to, it's an old school cocktail. It's called as an old school cocktail, which I did for Smokehouse Delhi, which I really served on a slate. A slate is all about education, knowledge is all about sharing. So this slate has a beautiful note which talk about a berry julep or a mint julep, because we love to, because cocktail is such an amazing thing. I mean, there is lots to learn about it. We learn, and we feel as a mixologist, as a bartender, that we should give it to others. And there are so many people who want to listen and want to learn about cocktails. So this is one of a kind which I did in a mint julep glass. It's a berry julep. I give it with a Monaco biscuit because that's again an acceptance. An aware product, people love to have it. If you give anything aware to an Indian, he accepts it at that moment. With a little bit of berry jam inside, so that a salt and a sweetness gives you that cut down when you have a next sip of your cocktail. So that's what a berry julep for an old school for me. Thank you so much. That's what make me slowly. This is a chamomile and a cranberry. So which is again, this was a 2014 trend of flavored ice to a cocktail. So this ice was been flavored by an orange zest oil and little bit of cranberry inside, which is an ice mold, which is definitely, I'm sorry if you can't see the picture, I'm so sorry for the unprofessional picture. But it has an ice mold which has an orange zest inside, which when you pour in the chamomile whiskey base, infused chamomile whiskey sour, which you pour it into the berry gets infused slowly and gradually with the swirl of those ice, which is round in a balloon glass, which gives you, every sip gives you a different taste when you start infusing. And this might be one of the few cocktails where every sip is a different cocktail experience altogether. That's why I designed this called as a chamomile and a cranberry. So the next, that's a mold which I use for a chamomile and a cranberry. That's a flavored ice with cranberry inside and a chamomile in it. You know, when Riaz gave me one more challenge he thrown, and which I love about him, is we wanted to design something for Delhi called a social chat. The idea came of social chat is all about communicating. You know, in India, Indian tradition was all about terraces, and people used to socialize on terrace in olden days. People used to jump from one terrace to another, you know, talk to each other, because that time there was no media of television, no social media of Twitter, Insta, and Facebook, and people used to just gossip jumping from one terrace to another. That's what the concept came into me in my idea called as a social chat. So I wanted to give the nostalgic feel to what social chat is all about. So I created this cocktail called as the Banta Hai. You know, in Delhi, if you know how many of you are from Delhi, I mean, it's a very beautiful word. They say it as Banta bottles. So the word derived from there called as Banta Hai. So that's why I named it, and Absolute and Pernod Ricard really appreciated this cocktail. I really went to Muradabad in Delhi to learn about that machine which is there. You know, it is called as a goti soda machine. Like how much rounds you have to swirl the machine on 60 to 70 psi, where has to go into it. And the challenge for me was not to make aerated water and mix in the cocktail, but to entirely make the cocktail aerated. So the balancing of the sugar, because whenever you put any CO2 into a cocktail, it cuts down the water. What remains is the sugar. So the challenge is not to make the cocktail sweet, but to balance it out very well. But it was a great learnings for me, which created me with limca and maza mango with gin. I created some kala katta with old monk, and it has created wonders in over there. That is called as a Banta Hai for you guys. And I serve it in a crate. So you buy a Banta Hai of 12 bottles, you buy 6 flavors or 12 flavors, you get it in a crate called as a Banta Hai. And my bar is full of this gadgets, which is of those goti soda bottles. So the bartenders make in front of you. So they are the hats off to the great mixologist guys. Because I really feel bartenders make money, mixologists make drinks. Then we move on to, thank you so much, Kanan. Then we move on to the banne ka juice called as the Banarasi Patiala. So my bartender started also the art of how to get the juice out of an ganne ka machine. It's such a heavy machine, which I personally went myself to, the Muradabad, some market and over there to get that hand-picked. But it was a beautiful experience. And that's how we created cocktail with a rum base, a Malibu base, with fresh sugarcane juice squeezed in front of you and made into a cocktail, which was a final hit in a Banarasi Patiala glass called as the Banarasi Patiala. I mean, this again, a chamomile and it was a cinnamon and an apple, I'm sorry, but a burnt cinnamon cocktail. But I really wanted to have that burnt feel outside now, not inside, infused in a cocktail. So that's why I tied that with a brown paper parchment bag, and I have studied I studied a cinnamon stick, and I burned it outside. So when it goes to the table, the aroma comes in from outside the cocktail, and you sip the cocktail. So it's all about taste, and it's all about flavors. It's a beautiful saying that when you close your nose, what comes in your mouth is a taste. But when you open your nose, here completes the flavor. You can't do anything without a flavor. And that's just an example of what burnt cinnamon is for you. This was one of the cocktail again, which I did call as a bacon salt Bloody Mary. And I served it in a square glass because wood is always a bad conductor of heat. So you keep the cocktail at the right temperature. It's the way of serving on a square because glasses are always round, and the imagination of glasses, you cannot change the glassware. So I thought about changing it and giving it a different feel. So I used a square wooden box, which is a food grade from inside a lead proof, which I started using it, and I used it called as a bacon salt. The bacon salt has been given it in a potli, like in a parchment bag, which is tied up next to the cocktail. So the guest has to open it, then he put it according to the taste of into the bacon salt into his cocktail. And that's what the bacon salt and the Bloody Mary was. And then it was like a tiki cocktail, again, with a South Pacific rim, which I served in a saucer, which is made of Malibu, and it was white, so that's why I used like a plain dark clay saucer, like a UFO saucer for this cocktail. Then comes an achar oshka. It's a simple cocktail called as Kaiproshka, but I gave it a tweak with a lime pickle inside it, and I made it as an acharoshka. And lime was been served and has been stored in olden days in martaban jars. That's why I use like a martaban jar. And as Hanif Qureshi, the great designer who created a brand logo for social, has thought about doing it as a hashtag and a char in Hindi. So yeah, and that's what. Thank you so much, Supreme. And that's what called as an achar. And that's where I served the acharoshka into it. It's a tweak of about lime pickle into your Kaiproshka. This was the fun thing which I did when social turned 1. It was in Bangalore when Riaz thrown up a challenge to me saying that I want to give something at 1 rupee. And I said, is it possible in today's world? And I did it possible by giving a cocktail in a milk bottle for 1 rupee. But the challenge was that I want the guest to come at my bar and give me that 1 rupee, not a coin. Not a note, not 1,000 rupee or not 500 rupee. That 1 rupee, because I wanted that every childhood has come up to that experience in life. Ki 1 rupee hai kya? 1 rupee, I want to buy something. I wanted that experience to come back to the guest and say, do you have 1 rupee because I want to buy a cocktail at the bar? And the cocktail, I served it in a milk bottle, because social turned 1. Thank you so much.